Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to United Front, the one and only source for everything New Mexico United, USL, and New Mexico runners related here in New Mexico. My name, of course, is Seth Bidoff. Joining me, the one, the only Jacob Terrell. Jacob, will we be joined by Christina tonight? I didn't look at the messages. I know she was.
I think she was going to try, but
she's going to try. Okay.
I have not heard for sure yet.
Perfect. All right, perfect. So maybe she'll be hopping in here shortly. Hopefully she is. I know that folks certainly love it when we have Christina on the show. Everyone already over in the chat, Justin, Jane, and Christian, guys, you guys are early. We got our early crew there. Thank you guys so much for being here. Christian, best part of Wednesday, when I turn off the USL show and put on United Front. I mean, you can turn them off tomorrow too. Fine by me.
No, it's Wednesday where he's at.
Okay. That's true. He's over in South Korea. Yes. All right. Best part of Wednesday. We'll take it. For everyone else, it is Tuesday night, and we are back with the latest on New Mexico United, as well as the New Mexico Runners, who are back in action this coming weekend after a month off. The Runners will be back in action on Saturday. I'm gonna make sure I have this correct here.
Real quick, while you're doing that, Josh, good evening and congratulations, my friend.
Well, what are we congratulating Josh on?
They just had a little baby.
Oh, congratulations. Welcome to the Dad Club.
Yes, sir. We'll get you a little care package put together with some Tylenol, because you'll need it for sleeping uncomfortably. Maybe a little bit of, I don't know, if you drink bourbon, you might need a little bit of bourbon.
Rub it on the baby's gums.
Yes, 100%. Sorry, we do not condone that behavior. Sorry. Legally, I think I have to say that. But yeah, congrats for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, congrats, man. Is it your first?
It is their first.
It is their first. Oh, yes, absolutely. Congratulations. Maybe some Benadryl and some diapers. How about that?
I mean, that's practical. I was trying to go funny, but
I mean, we can certainly do that as well. Do you want to take care of that text here?
I got you.
Okay, sweet.
Also, Josh, prepare to be useless for a little while, just so you know. Like you're like all excited. You're like, yeah, I got a baby, and then you're just gonna sit there for most of the time for a while. While Nico is just chilling. So, but okay, congratulations. I'm going to take care of this. And you guys.
Yeah, here we go. Space Kid, welcome on in. Glad to see you back in the chat this week. We're happy to have you. And we'll get to it here in just a few minutes. But Space Kid called it last week. We'll get to that here momentarily. But I was correct. The Runners are back in action this Sunday, the 23rd, 3:05 p.m. kickoff from the Rio Rancho Event Center. They're taking on first place Wichita Wings. So get on out, support Brian Weems, new head coach of the New Mexico Runners, in his second match in charge. And let's see if they can't continue to make some headway at the end of the season. So yeah, welcome in everybody. Glad to have everyone here. Looks like Christina. We good? Yep. All right. Perfect. Welcome in, Christina. There she is.
Hey guys. Hopefully I'm on my phone. I also don't have headphones. So tonight's going to be an adventure for me.
No worries. We've all been there. We've all had our times where we've forgotten something, or didn't have something quite charged, right, Jacob?
Hey, don't look at me.
No, we're glad you're here. We have quite a few things to get to this evening. I mean, where do we start? I think maybe we start off with the fact that New Mexico United had a previously unannounced closed door preseason match against FC Juarez over the weekend. And for those of you who do not follow the club over on Blue Sky, they were doing whatever you do on Blue Sky as the match progressed.
Say it, Christina. Say it. I see you unmuted.
I know. They were skeeting.
Yeah. Skeet.
I'm never gonna like that. I'm never gonna like
say right now, I'm probably I'm probably not going to do anything on Blueski. I call it Blueski, by the way. I think it sounds funnier. But I will forever love that they have decided to say skeet instead of a tweet, and it's hilarious.
I mean, for those of you who were following along, it seemed to go pretty well in New Mexico United's favor. Final score of that one was 6-0. I mean, Jacob, what did we glean from this match, from the information that we were able to get over on Blue Sky?
Well, caveat, of course, we don't know what FC Juarez put out there. Don't know if they like really. Oh, the chat's gonna be fun. Don't know how seriously they took it or anything like that, but they are a Liga MX team. They kind of took it to us last year here at the lab. And so I think there's at least something to be said about it. The offense came alive, 6-0. I mean, you put up 6 on anybody, preseason or not, I think it's a good showing. And I'm telling you, this attack, I think going into the offseason and throughout the offseason, I think all of us have kind of mentioned wanting a number 9, skeeting in Juarez. There's your title for the episodes.
There we go. Perfect.
No, wrong. Seth doesn't have a kid. Josh has a kid. Josh in the chat has a kid. Don't let Mel come in. No. So overall, I think you have to take nothing but positive away from it. Obviously, we did get more skeets about it than we did any of the other preseason matches. So we saw that some people made some good defensive plays, saw a few more chances created and stuff like that instead of just getting the goal updates. And we got videos of the goals. Unfortunately, I couldn't get them over to us to actually show because it's Blueski and the videos were not great. Or ripping the videos was not easy anyways. But they did have highlights of like 3 or 4 of the goals. I think Justin over in the chat saying they're 6th in Liga MX right now, and they are 4-1-2. Okay, Justin, debate. Guys, debate. Is it wins, losses, draws? Wins, draws, losses? Somebody.
Yeah, I think you have to go wins, draws, losses.
Thank you. That's the only answer that I think is acceptable but in America, we don't typically do that. Okay, good, Justin. Good. I appreciate that. So yeah, they look really good so far. They might not have played their A team, obviously, because they're in the middle of a season, but yeah, I think it was fantastic. My biggest takeaway, I think Gaines is going to be a real problem for the rest of the USL, and I wouldn't be surprised if, in fact, I think he has an MVP caliber season this year for us if he stays healthy. And so, I mean, he had 2 goals. He created another chance or 2. I mean, I think from what we've seen, what we've read anyways, and then what I saw a little bit about at media, or what I saw a little bit of him at media day, I think he's going to be really freaking good.
Josh, to answer your question, yes, USL does wins, losses, draws.
Yes, it's super annoying.
Wrong.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, even though it's preseason, we didn't get a lot of, actual, video proof of anything that went on. But you see the new guys, you see the new signings, you see the names popping up, you see them being involved in goals. I think that's always a positive sign. Now, obviously, we cannot wait to see what happens. We've seen a few highlights here and there. If you didn't see them over on Blue Sky, go check them out. The clubs, obviously, those are over on the club's Blue Sky account. But it's something that you have like, okay, we're going to see them next weekend. We're going to see them this weekend. We're going to see them next weekend as well. And so you kind of have an idea of who you're going to look for now. You have an idea of who to watch, who may be performing in these matches, and especially with someone like Mackenzie Gaines, someone who was highly touted. coming in. You like to see them getting involved so early. It's an early sign for me, an early positive to see the interactions. Maybe, the club is gelling. Maybe they're coming together a bit earlier than a lot of clubs would. Christina, I know you're one of the few accounts that you have left at this point is Blue Sky. Did you happen to get a chance to follow along on Saturday? And what was the reaction as the club was keeping us updated on that match?
Yeah, Jacob fortunately alerted me to it. I hadn't been on the app, so I didn't realize that they were going to keep us updated. I love the club for doing that. I was feeling a little nervous what it was going to look like, so hopefully this is a sign of more fun skeets to come. My sense was, granted they won 6-0, but they just looked like they were having a good time. It was nice to see them it looked like they were really clicking, making lots of great connections, just really cohesive, positive energy. The goals were all really solid goals. So it was fun to get a little glimpse into the squad just kind of gelling and coming together.
Yeah, it definitely does. To continue our discussion here, we're going to bring in friend of the show, Harry Austin at Ramacall across all social medias. Oh, good Lord.
Right show? Is this the right show? Oh.
No.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, that'll do it. Harry, have you been skeeting much lately? What's been your interactions on Blue Sky?
Well, I'm not sure what skeeting is, so evidently I'm not doing it right on Blue Sky.
Oh, freaking Blue Sky, man.
So for me, to be honest with you, because it's high school season here in San Antonio, in Texas, I guess I should clarify. So predominantly most high school soccer teams still use Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Since I'm older, I don't use Instagram very much because, well, that's beyond my level for that here. So to me, it's Facebook and Facebook and X or Twitter, whatever the heck you want to call it, for that here. I have a Blue Sky account. I talk a little bit on it, but that one's mainly, I won't lie to you, mainly for Newcastle and USL and stuff like that.
So you are skeeting on it. Okay, good.
Not often, but whatever you want to call it, sure.
Harry, you're old, says Christian in the chat. Sorry, I need to gather myself. Okay.
I threw you off with my intro, huh?
Okay. No, the skeeting talk has been rampant right now, and so, anyways.
So what is skeeting? Is that just tweeting?
It's just a tweet on Blue Sky.
Yeah, okay.
It's Blue Sky's version of a tweet.
Yeah, no.
I'm glad we could educate you on that. I could give you the other definition too, but this is a PG podcast.
All right.
I don't know if we're 100% PG,
PG-13.
Okay.
Well, let's kind of keep it. I don't. I got kids, and I'm sure if they tell me at some point, because they've told me some things, and I'm like, no, that's beyond me at this point. Go ahead. So when you get 50, I'll be 53 this year. Yeah, it's through here.
Harry accidentally put that El Trasho flag by your desk. Just thought I'd let you know since it should be in the trash.
Well, what I have is I have the El Paso flag wrapping around the New Mexico. I think I have 3 New Mexico flags now. So the El Paso flag is the one that gets all the little dust bunnies and stuff like that. So in a way, it kind of protects. San Antonio doesn't do cool things like those, so I have to give it a little bit of shout out to El Paso on them.
Maybe this year, Harry. Maybe.
Hey, but I do have my New Mexico United Cup.
This guy, man.
Love
But I also do have my cup with a star. Do you guys have a star yet?
Oh, all right.
So
This fucking guy.
it's a little early for that, but we're talking about Gaines and how he's going to be the MVP of USL based on, I think, Jacob and Seth's pregame talk in the Twitter, or not the Twitter, the messaging system.
Text messages? Yes. Yes.
Telegraph.
Telegram.
Sounds about right.
I mean, he has the tools, man. He has the tools.
He is quick.
I haven't seen a ton of them in person.
Have you seen him in person?
I have. I was at Media Day on Thursday, and he was in training. So it was just training, but I did see him in action. And so he seems like he has everything that you need to succeed in this league, and he can finish apparently because he's kind of tearing up the preseason. Now, also, I think it was Josh Doling a couple years ago that tore it up in preseason and then proceeded to disappear and then get transferred to Las Vegas, ironically enough. But that was from a 9 position. He didn't have the pedigree that Gaines has, and I think I do think that he's going to be legit. I do believe that. And because I'm a fan and because I throw all levels of reason out the window when we talk about this stuff, I will say he's my pick for MVP of the league, but that's just.
Did I not call it?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I put that in the chat. So
That you did. I mean, and speaking of Media Day, we'll get to that here in just a second. Harry, how are things going in the preseason so far for San Antonio? We haven't heard too much on our side about it. So let's get your perspective.
So we got to travel down. They played USL League 2, Corpus Christi FC, the Sharks. They look different. They can actually pass the ball, and looks like they know what they're doing. There's kind of a discussion on the formation because it looks like it starts out as one but evolves into another depending on offensive or defensive. A lot faster team this year. Probably a little bit more deeper team. The cool thing that stood out to me was at the end of the game, and I know this is small things, but the players and coaching staffs came over to the traveling fans without anything like that, which to me is a big thing. And, of course, they won 3-1. They were all in good spirits and stuff. So, but to me, weakness right now, the only goalkeeper that we have on the roster right now, well, we have 2 signed, but 1 graduates from the University of Virginia in May. So they're not expecting him back to late May, June, is Richard Sanchez, which, no offense to Richard, I hope he's not our starter, because if he is, that's a weak spot for San Antonio. But I'm hoping they bring in somebody there on loan or to me, I'm hoping they sign the Hartford goalkeeper that got released or mutually separated. But we were talking about that on our show Sunday, and we're like, if he's going to come to camp and be realistic to start week 1, need to sign him this week because the season's 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away. So we're running out of time for them to sign players that can start week 1. But for San Antonio,
Nope. Here
sorry. I was like, hey, we look awesome, but we'll see. We'll come March 8th, March 9th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, regular season's not too far away. I know that our preseasons have been a little bit different between the 2 clubs. A fair amount of turnover both ways. I mean, who's standing out for you right now as someone to watch for San Antonio here in the final few weeks and even going into the first week of the season?
Well, Jorge's the obvious one. We've only seen him once, so we get El Paso this week. I think that'll be a better judge to see further here. But the back line with Cronulla and Suhe that came in from Tulsa.
Swahi.
Swahi, they look. Sorry, the pronunciation guide hasn't been published for us.
No, I
yet.
figured that's why, because he was with us. So
Yeah.
So
But between you add those two of Tainer, and the back line's looking very, very, very good.
does.
To me, like I said, Agudelo, they've at least in the games that we've seen and from what we've heard, they're basically crossing the ball in, and Agudelo's heading it in, or one of the tall center backs is heading it in. So sometimes that works well. In preseason, to be fair, they've gone they finished 2-2 against the Dynamo. Played SMU and UIW, won 2-0, 2-1, and then Corpus Christi, they won 3-1. So results wise, maybe not as flashy as beating a Liga MX team, 6-0, I think it was, you guys did.
Sure was.
And Gaines had 20 goals in that game. So, but no, it's you guys know the routine. It's it's something to get excited. It's like preseason baseball or spring training in baseball where, oh, this looks good, and then hey, everybody gets the hopes and dreams, and then if you're a Braves fan, by into May, at least when I was growing up, into May, the season was already done.
This is not the 70s anymore. This is not Ted Turner's Braves.
Dale Murphy and Glenn Mother Hubbard. Let me tell you, those were the days
that they were. They were phenomenal. I still think Dale Murphy should be in the Hall of Fame. But
anyways,
that's a discussion for another day. So New Mexico United had their media day this past week, and I know Jacob was out there. Harry, how does San Antonio handle media days? Do they bring in, not just the local like newspapers and TV stations, radio affiliate stuff like that, but do guys like us, the podcast, the local folks, they all get to come in, and does the San Antonio do the same type of thing?
Yeah, we've got like Jonathan Check goes, he works with us, but he does his own writing. I get the offers to be able to go, but obviously my job doesn't want me cutting out to go over there for that here. So I'd rather cut out for games unless it's an important announcement. If it was a jersey reveal or the coaching being named, I would have cut out for that. But if it's just the standard media, from my understanding, you guys are a little bit blessed on the availability and stuff that you guys get compared to San Antonio and other clubs for that here. So to me, like I said here, it's night and day between what New Mexico and Peter offers compared to what most other USL teams does. But that's no secret. That's been something that's been known for 5-6 years that you guys have been around along those lines.
Year 7, going into year 7.
Dang, you're old. We're going into 10.
Yeah, it's been a decade, of change in and around the league, and obviously even longer. And we got some big league news that we'll get to here in just a little bit as well. But before we get there, Jacob, talk a little bit about Media Day. Who did you see? Who did you get to talk to? Who impressed you on and off the mic?
Yeah, everybody was out there, at least on the field when I got there. So they do it. They give you about an hour worth of training that you can sit there and watch and film and stuff. And then they, once that's over, then you get, I don't know. Last year we got like everybody. This year we got 6 different people on the mic, and you get them for like 10 minutes each or so, or 10 minutes per group of 3. It's like 3 or 4 minutes each, or however you want to do it. On the pitch, it was Gaines, obviously. Harry, if you want a fun drinking game for the rest of the season, like last year it was Hosu. This year, forewarned, probably going to be Gaines. So if I say Gaines, you take a drink and you will not remember your Tuesday nights. His speed was very impressive. And then,
Time out.
Okay.
This is a PG-13 show, please. What he's talking about drinking is Kool-Aid, iced tea, that type of stuff here along those lines here.
I was drinking moonshine at 13, and we're fine.
Different ages, man. You're used to 8-tracks too. Let's not go back that far.
Whoa. He's not that old.
I'm not that old.
He's younger than I am. So
Is
No,
Jacob
I know 8 tracks.
redacted?
What,
Redacted?
Christina?
Redacted?
We'll,
Or
we'll,
was
talk about,
David true to his words?
we'll talk about redacted in a minute.
He
Unfortunately, they will still stay redacted, but they're the normal faces. Talon stood out. Kalen looks really good. Gloucester looks like he's in like the best shape of his life, and the feeling around the club is that he is going to be insanely good this year. And I have to believe it. I mean, he came on strong at the end of last season, so even though I shit on him for a couple months there, he did come on there towards the end, and he looks to be way better off this year than he was in preseason last year. There were a few more redacteds out there. One or two of them. What, Pinky?
She does redacted players.
Yeah, she's
Not
censoring
having
me.
that.
She's censoring me from David. There may or may not be some names that have been mentioned already on the pod before I was there. And then there may or may not be some names that might surprise you. Yes, Harry.
Can she release the retracted names? Because if it comes from her, obviously,
She would not be legally bound by any sort of NDA. I mean, to the point, to Space Kid's point, and I had a question about it over on the New Mexico United subreddit as well. We know information, like we do.
Not all the time, to be fair.
Not all the time, but there are things that we do know. There are
not true, damn it.
But there are, and we certainly have relationships with the club, and we work hard to make sure that we maintain our relationship with David. We see Carl and with other folks within the club as well. And so, things that we know, we do not say unless we've been given the authorization to do it. Now we do speculate on a lot of things, but Jacob being out at media day, we do know who redacted are. But that's not information that we will release at this time, because it could affect potential signings or their ability to sign elsewhere or whatever the case may be. These may be individuals who are still on MLS rosters and are trialing. These may be individuals who are free agents. These may be individuals who, are trying to get their first pro shot. So we certainly don't want to have any sort of effect on that. And we do, again, we're going to keep the information that we have to ourselves, and not, release anything unless we have approval from the club. So, but
that was the PR version of what I was about to say, which is, I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll add the truth to it. You don't want to tell because you don't want to burn the bridge to be able to get the information. Because if you burn that bridge, then you don't get the information going forward. Let's just be honest.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
That is exactly, like, you couldn't have said. I mean, yes, that is fair. So the redacted names, there's a handful out there. Names have been floated around already in previous episodes that may or may not be there. It is what it is. We'll see if they even make the team. There's no guarantee that the trialists make the team because that's by definition they are trialists on trial, coming here to try out essentially. And so,
did any redacteds stand out to you?
Unfortunately, no. Like last year, well, maybe one, but not like last year. Like last year, Talon and Herbert were on trial or were trialists, and they just on trial makes it sound like they're criminals. They were trialists, and they, like, from the get-go, Talon Maples, like, I could tell he was going to be, oh, wow, okay, this guy's going to be a dude. These guys, they're not young up-and-comers necessarily. They're pretty proven players, and so there wasn't anybody that like was like, oh, okay, who's this guy? Wow, he's really impressing me. And so, unfortunately, with redacted, that's kind of all we get right now. As far as everybody else, Dayon is still rehabbing from his knee injury, so he's still a little ways away. He was off on the side. Gideon was off on the side. Gideon did play in Tucson.
Burying the lead there.
I mean, everybody knows already, but you should have led with that if you didn't want me to bury the lead. Gideon played in Tucson, but he did not participate in training. Fernando wasn't in training. I almost said another name that I'm not supposed to say. Shakes looks really good too, man. Shakes, I don't think he's going to compete for the number one, at least right off the bat, but he looks good. And man, I love Chris. He's the two Chris's are just always freaking smiling and always hamming it up and just having a good time. And so, and then like the biggest picture item that I kind of took away was similar to last year. The team really seems to have come together. Last year we did it before the Tucson trip. And so I think that Tucson trip even really helped. And then Kalen mentions it in the press conferences that, there's a lot more returners this year than there were last year. And so he thinks they're a little farther along in gelling and everything like that. And then I posted a clip, a couple days ago, and Mackenzie Gaines, who's been a part of Nashville, Austin, Houston, Charlotte, all of MLS, said that this was by far the best locker room he's been in, meaning just the camaraderie, the friendship, the family kind of atmosphere. And so I do think that so far the team is gelling really nice. There's no divas that I noticed or that it seemed like were around. And so really, I just think kind of like last year, we talked about it a lot last year. Like we didn't have a stud, right? Other than Nanan, in my opinion, we didn't really have anybody that really stood out and kind of carry the team on their back. It was more that collection of people that push the team forward. And I think we're still going to have that, but then we're also going to have Akale in his second year, Gaines tearing it up, possibly Fernando. I don't know what his injury is. I don't know why he was out for training, but possibly him. Hold on, son. And then thank you. We'll see what Gideon can bring. We'll can see what Pondeka, who I'm pretty excited about, can bring. And so I think we have higher top end talent with Gaines and Akale, and I think Hurst will continue to grow. And then still have that camaraderie and that collective pushing forward. To Jane's question in the chat, Herbert was there. He was healthy. Apparently he did play in Tucson. His name just didn't get put out there for some reason that I saw. And so Herbert was there. He looked good. Maples looked good. Ryden looked good. Seymour looked good. Everybody looked good. Bailey looked like Bailey. I'm so excited to have him back after the way last season ended, by the way. I think I've said that already, but to put that blame, I know he put that blame on himself for losing that Vegas match with that bad turnover. And I'm so glad that he's back and he's got his head held high and is just ready to go. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty quick turnaround with the media day. It's an hour and then some questions. I'll be posting some more pressers and stuff like that from it throughout the week coming up before Saturday's match there at Mesa del Sol. But yeah, that was about it.
So you one of the names you brought up in the middle of this was someone who was announced last Wednesday. David Weissy-Carl did kind of give us
he was announced Tuesday night on the show in the comments section.
Yeah, it was predicted in the comments last Tuesday. The club officially announced it on Wednesday morning after David Weissy-Carl gave us a bit of a tease. Gideon Zelalem. I had to go look him up because honestly, I was not terribly familiar with the name. And Space Kid over in the chat who runs a Gideon Zelalem fan account over on X, just completely called it. Picked him out of the photo, said this is who it was. Club announced him. Harry, I know that I've done my background research on him now. You know, Gideon was someone who was in the sphere of the U.S. national team for a number of years in his younger years. What are your thoughts on this as someone on the outside looking in? Now, obviously, fortunately, the club did not announce anybody of the stature of breaking the internet like Brian Brown. But he really seemed to have fallen off and out of favor with a number of folks. How did this come about? And what's the thought about this outside of the United scope?
I think it's wait and see. Like I said here, I know the name. I don't, I haven't followed him closely, and no offense, he didn't sign with San Antonio, so I didn't do a deep dive on him. No offense. To me, like I said here, it's, and I know we're going to get into it with the grades with USL Tactics coming up here. I think it's one of those signings that on the surface you can see that there is major potential, but there's also just enough, flags if somebody wants to nitpick at it that they can. And to me, without seeing them play, without seeing New Mexico play, it's just, it's like with us, the players that we have, they looked good for the 90 minutes that I saw, but it wasn't against USL Championship competition. We don't get to see practice, along those lines here. So from an outsider's perspective, it was a big name being announced. It was pretty cool, created a lot of buzz. But like I said here, how it works for New Mexico United, TBD.
So,
Christina, is that a name that you were familiar with going into it, having been a soccer fan more than me and Seth per se?
Yeah, as far as a player that a lot of eyes were on, kind of akin to like Freddie Adu, similar sort of vibe of like this up and coming kid who's playing overseas, and it wasn't surprising to me to see a lot of like hater kind of comments when the signing was announced. But I think I said in our group chat, like, I trust Itmar. I trust Coach Sanchez. It's the cohesiveness of, is this going to be a player that's going to contribute on the pitch, but also in the locker room and in the community. And so I'm excited for him.
Yeah, to me, go ahead, Harry.
And I'll say, as far as the hater comments, I wonder how much of it is that he signed with New Mexico United, because typically 25% of comments are automatically from people that are not fans or treat New Mexico United in a kind way. We'll just say here, keeping it family friendly.
Yeah, to me, the signing reminds me a lot of now. If we look back to last preseason when it happened, I'm thinking of then, not necessarily how we know it transpired since then, but Abu Danladi, a guy coming in, has potential, had a lot of hype, and can come in and be a difference maker if he stays healthy and he finds a groove and he fits in. And so I'm excited about it, but cautiously optimistic, because we've seen some signings like this before, right? We've seen Brian Brown. We've seen Abu Danladi. We've seen, Nico Brett came in and did deliver some, but maybe not as much as we wanted him to. And so we've seen some big high profile names come in that have fallen short, so to say. But we've also seen some like Swahi over with San Antonio now. When he came over, he came from Lou City. I was high on him, and he performed. I don't know why we didn't keep him. And so it's a it's a high upside, low risk signing for me. And I do think that it could be a needle mover if he can stay healthy and come in and have the right attitude and move on. And so I think it's a great signing. It's a great upside signing, and it's a position of need, right? It's a defensive mid. It's like a 6-8 kind of combo, like that Hosu role. I think he's going to play more of an attacking style than Hosu did, and less of a defensive style. But I think he can come here. He can get rid of the pressure of having to live up to this name and be in the spotlight of MLS or Premier League or a league overseas, and can just settle in and find a groove and possibly, if he can stay healthy and rehab any lingering issues that he has, then he can turn around and go back up to MLS next year if the cards play right. If not, we'll see. And one thing I can guarantee you is Sanchez isn't going to just hand that position to him on a silver platter, and Pondeka is not going to acquiesce and be like, "Oh man, here you go, man. It's your spot." Same with Zico and anybody else, Vargas, anything like that. Like, he's going to have to come here. He's going to have to earn it. And if he does, fantastic. And if he doesn't, probably wasn't a huge signing to begin with. So as far as financially.
Yeah, looking at his career, I mean, he obviously has gotten a bit of run the last 2 seasons with Den Bosch. Gonna be a central midfielder, someone, according to Transfer Market, at least, someone who's going to, be more potentially, more defensive minded, maybe like a central defensive mid, something along those lines, which is kind of what I said I would like to see, that's not to say, defenders can't play centrally or midfielders, whatever. Because I saw some comments about that last week. But, this is kind of what I was hoping to see. Someone that's going to fit this defensive mid role that can kind of spell, Will Seymour. I think this is kind of where I'd like to see Will play rather than on that right back side. But that's just me. But yeah, all the hype and everything, as mentioned over in the chat by Justin, reading up on him, he was really hyped as a young kid, especially coming up through the Arsenal system, getting time with, the U15s, U17s. And you really hope it's not another, Freddie Adu situation. Like you mentioned, Christina, Freddie Adu is one of the big names that we saw as the next thing from American soccer, and just flamed out. Just couldn't handle the pressure. Now, I certainly hope that's not the case with Gideon. Maybe he just, it just didn't quite live up to the hype, but he's still able to perform at a high enough level to where he can contribute. So,
one thing that I will say, I talked to Space Kate over after the announcement officially came out quite a bit about it. Injuries have kind of plagued Gideon and stuff, and so that was a big part of it. And then I did watch some highlights from last year, and he looks really good. He looked like he was comfortable with the ball at his feet and could beat somebody off the dribble. And then if they gave him space, he pinged quite a few long passes that I think if his teammates last year were a little bit better, he'd had several assists from. And so the potential is there. It is for sure there. And he did miss some time last year. I think he played like 25, 26 matches, had like a stretch of like 7 or 8 in a row that he missed dealing with something, but then came back and finished the season strong, was averaging a lot of minutes, was a starter in all but one of his appearances. I think he had 26 appearances, 25 starts, was a starter in all of those, played, 90 minutes multiple times, the majority of the time when he was a starter there. And so if he can come and do that, then I think the combination of him and Zico, and then Pondeka, Vargas, Akale, kind of in that defensive all the way from the double pivot up to Hurst, I think is a good quality start. I think we need another body there, just have another body there, which is one of the positions that one of the redacted players plays. Two of the redacted players play in the central midfield, actually. And so it's a possibility that we see another body there. But as it stands right now, I think we're in good shape, but not great shape with that in those positions. And I think if he can come in and play at all like he played last year, then I think we're going to be in really good shape. Space Kid himself said defensively he's not like he didn't say this about Hosu because he obviously didn't watch Hosu last year. Like, but from what I gathered, he's not going to be Hosu, right? He's not going to be somebody that's super fast and athletic and strong and is coming in and making crunching tackles. He's going to be cerebral about it, make sure his positioning's right, and then really show his stuff once we get a foot on the ball, and he can spray passes forward, dribble into space, and start that attack and be that connection between that transition period from when we're in defense to when we get the ball and moving forward. And so all in all, another fun, exciting signing. We haven't had a lot of signings, obviously. We've only had 4 announced signings this year, but they're all intriguing in different ways.
Yeah, Space Kid's your point. I'm not discounting the ACL surgeries. Obviously, that's going to take anyone out for an extended period of time. It just seems that for the hype that he had, for the systems that he's played in, he hasn't really caught on anywhere for any extended period of time. So that's where my concern is. Has he not been able to perform up to the level of expectation? And with that level of hype, it's understandable. I was going to get to that tonight too. But I do want to see what he can do. I do want to see him. Obviously, there are a lot of good things. There's a lot of potential with him. So I do want to see what happens. I want to see how he progresses. I want to see how he works in Dennis's system. And I think it could be interesting.
I do want to kind of temper the expectations. He's 28, so he's not 24, 25.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody keeps talking about his potential, but this should be the prime of his career. And looking at his stats, he's only hit, and last year was the first year, and it could be to injuries, just playing level. He's only hit 2,000 minutes in a season once, and that was last year. Mm-hmm. And like I said here, I haven't watched him played, but to me, it's one of those. And I'll be interested to see how he fits with the team, because he is a name, but he's never stayed at a team more than 2 years. It looks like here, maybe 2-3 years, and then he moves on. He's never really had back-to-back years of consistent minutes. So that to me, that's one thing where, is he a starter or is he more going to be coming off the bench, that 60th minute and kind of providing those key, moments that you want as a veteran that comes in that's had the experience overseas, for there. So it'll be interesting to see how New Mexico United plays him.
He doesn't. You say that, but he doesn't have a lot of minutes. Like he's a veteran in the sense that he's been around. He was around Arsenal for multiple years, right? He's been around some big clubs. He's been in the locker rooms for situations that most of our players don't have that experience. But as far as his legs, yes, he's got the injuries, but he doesn't have the minutes on his legs. And so as far as playing time, he's really not in that prime window of having played enough to hit that prime. And so I still think potential is there regardless of age, because he's had the injuries that I think have held him back more than anything else.
ACL takes your years, man. I'm not going to lie to you.
It does. It does. But as far as what he can bring to us this year, I think there is potential there. I think he has potential to be a day in, day out, or match in, match out starter if he stays healthy and performs, which obviously anybody is like that. But I think he's got a leg up on some of the younger guys.
I just want to temper the expectations, because that's my main thing, is his pedigree is great. But when you dig into the pedigree, that's where you start to see some of the holes, and that's where, to me, kind of, where, shows like this one here, we need to temper the expectations so that way we don't, set that expectation that, hey, he's going to come in, he's going to be a difference maker, and he may be, but I don't want to come in and lay that foundation on him based on the history that he's provided. He's not Brian Brown, where he's going to come in and break the internet, type of player for that here. But to me, he's, in the position he plays, defensive mid, central mid, he's not going to be you don't want him to be, he may be the flashy person that scores goals, but to me, he's going to be that person, kind of like a hockey assist, where maybe leads to the assist to the goal type of player, where, for you and I, we may, hey, he played a great game, even though it may not show on the stat sheet.
Agreed.
Yep. Yeah. Again. Oh, go ahead.
Dropping down to USL. I think it's probably a smart move. It's rather than viewing it as like a fall from grace, I think coming to the championship league, getting those minutes, maybe just,
hey, we're Division 1, so is it really a drop?
Right.
Well, and I will say, to Christina's point, soccer wise, who I don't know if anybody listened to MLS Extra Time before it kicked the bucket a couple months ago, but soccer wise, it's Tom Bogart and David Goss was the episode that I was watching, and Space Kid actually asked him some questions about it, and they explained it pretty well. Like, MLS is a very physical and kind of a train wreck league where you have to be in really good shape to perform there. All the soccer fields are actually soccer fields, so there's way more space and stuff like that. And USL is way more technical, and it's not quite as fast paced. It's not quite as physical, and so it's a league that he can come down, and because he doesn't have that physical prowess that he might have had when he was younger because of injuries and age and whatnot, it is a situation where he very well could, because of his technical skills and his ball skills, perform really well without the wear and tear of some of these other leagues.
I will say physical is in the eye of the beholder, because we all have seen some physical.
Well, yes, soccer is.
I understand what you're saying, though, but
it's just not quite as physical as MLS.
Well, I think like Swahi, didn't he go? Who did he play for before Tulsa? He dropped down a level.
Yeah, he went into Union Omaha, I believe.
Yeah.
It was either Union Omaha or no, it was Union Omaha.
And then he came right back up, and he performed well with Tulsa. Mm-hmm. I think that he's going to be San Antonio's favorite fighting Frenchman. Sometimes players just need that time to go to a different level and work on skills, work on getting those minutes. And so I'm going to be optimistic and say that's what's going to happen for our new guy.
Oh, I think he's going to be solid. I just, like I said here, to me, I don't. When you start throwing around Arsenal and European experience, it automatically raises the expectation among the average fan that attends, not necessarily the soccer geeks like us, but the average fan is like, oh, he's with the Arsenal system, he's going to be great. And the number one, the position he plays, it's not like the striker or the goalkeeper where it's going to stand out, where we may see it. So that's why, to me, I want to just kind of temper the expectation and say, hey, he may still be solid, even though the average fan will be like, hey, what happened to him?
All right, Seth, let's get to what you want to talk about.
Next thing I want to talk about, and this is something that Jacob, you put on our list. John Morrissey, who we all know and love. Yeah, we're gonna go there next. Who we all know and love, and I love this shit on his predictions.
He hates San Antonio.
He hates the West, Harry. You know it.
I didn't read his grades, but if I was a woman, I bet that all of the A's and B's are East, and all of the B's and C's and D's are West.
Well, Jacob has access to all of that.
I mean, you're not completely wrong, Christina.
So, well, Jacob, how did John see the offseason for the different clubs within the league, and specifically San Antonio and New Mexico?
Well, before we get to his, I would like to know, all three of you, since Harry's here, what you would give New Mexico on a A to F, obviously. We just a small recap. We lose Josu, we lose Micheletto, we lose Abdi, Harry Jacobo, and Nikki. I mean, we lose some names. We bring in Gaines, we bring in Gideon, we bring in Pandeka and Fernando. Kind of sort of unknowns, but not really. And then, of course, the biggest one is losing Quill, but replacing him with Dennis Sanchez. And so, to me, it's I was high on Josu, and then everybody else we lost, I was kind of meh on. Like, I loved Mihakovo and Nikki, but they weren't like true difference makers. And so I don't feel like we lost a whole lot of like high-end talent, but we did replace them with, I think, could be a couple difference makers in Fernando and Gaines specifically, and then kind of a high upside play in Gideon. So if you were grading New Mexico's offseason, be as biased or unbiased as you want, who wants to go first?
I
Good.
I'll go first. So there's a few places that my mind goes. The first place my mind goes is I did listen to Mike and Devin on the USL All Access last week.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about how Vegas did not overperform. He had a great squad and he was a great coach and he got results. But he said Coach Quill overperformed because he didn't have a great squad.
Mm-hmm. Those were Devin's words, not Christine.
No, I know, but
so that's always the MO. That's always the standard perception. Is Mexico's never going to have, or we've never historically had these big flashy players, these like star players. It's always been about the collective, always, and we always get sort of discounted, undervalued, overlooked, scored low. So that's where I think, yes, part of it Will and his coaching, but also it's just the fact that Itmar and the coaches, Peter, they do a ton of work to put together a cohesive squad, of players who play with heart and, who want to be here and who want to perform for the fans. And it's just, I don't know, it's a different mentality. So I'm not surprised that we don't necessarily have, again, these huge flashy signings. We don't have the Cal Jennings or who else were like the big ones. I'm sure like Birmingham, with their big signings. And even the players who left, it was hard seeing Josu leave. It was hard seeing Micheletto leave, but nobody was talking big game about them last year. They had to prove themselves. So here we are. We're going to have to, our squad is going to have to prove themselves yet again. So I'd give the fact that we lost our coach again, and we lost some of our major, especially in the center mid again. I'm not worried. I think that they hit the ground running, and maybe we're a little bit lucky or sneaky in securing Sanchez. But like I said, Itmar works really hard to find the right players who fit. And, I would give that a solid A performance as far as, what they're doing behind the scenes. And that's my soapbox.
As with most clubs, there's a lot of turnover. You look at the players left. For me, the standouts are Ao, Abdi, and Nanan. Those are the three that I see us missing the most. But I do think the players that we've brought in You look at Fernando. I like Marlon Vargas. I think Tomas is going to be big. McKenzie has the potential to be, one of the best players we've signed in the offseason. And, again, Gideon, I think that may be more of a depth signing than anything else, but he is someone that there is some expectation that he'll come in and perform. The big thing is going to be that coaching change, if you ask me. I do think that losing Quill, it is absolutely, held against us. But, bringing in Sanchez, a guy who was able to get results with that Vegas team, a team that historically had not done well at all, and to put them on the run that they were on, two long unbeaten runs last season. I think you have to take that into consideration as well. I do think we do. I do think we still have some more signings to come. So this is based off of what we've done so far. I would put us a solid B+.
I will say, as an outsider, I would have thought a B. Like, the coaching hire is an A+ for that here. But the issue is the players coming in, and it's probably very similar to San Antonio. People look at San Antonio as in, like, who are these kids that are coming in? Why is San Antonio bringing in, South America kids? It seems like, was it Ecuador, I think, is the country? No, Colombia. Colombia, we've got like 5 Colombians on the roster now. So to me, like I said here, I would have thought a B+ along those lines here. I do think New Mexico probably overperformed a little bit last year, but I don't know if it's them overperformed or did the West underperform during the regular season for that. Because looking at our predictions, and hopefully we'll do this again this year here in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob had them second, and me and Seth had New Mexico fourth. So we thought that they were going to be solid, but nobody had New Mexico first because I think we all thought Sacramento, and I stupidly picked Phoenix for that here, but we all thought Sacramento was going to be kind of the dominant team, and you guys picked San Antonio and Orange County, and you had Phoenix and New Mexico as the top 3 of Sacramento. So to me, I thought it's solid. I don't know if the West has got better though overall, if that makes sense. Because you look at the East, and it's Charleston, it's Lou City, the arms race. Everybody, it seems like they're getting all the big names. I don't trust Birmingham's coach, so even though they got the forwards, unlike New Mexico, I don't know if they have the coaching staff to deliver, for me. So I'm not high on them like everybody else. So,
yeah. And I think, John's a little lower than us. Than you guys. I probably would put it at about a B-, C+, which C+ is what John gave us. It's a lot of when you look at it from a USL championship perspective, other than Fernando, none of the guys that we've brought in have USL experience. Obviously, Gaines is coming down a level. And I think he will be fantastic. But if you're just looking at like a known quantity in the USL, which is the league that I follow the most, we don't have anybody. We didn't bring in one of those big names, those Cal Jennings, those Danny Trejo's, those Ronaldo Damases. We didn't bring any of those. We didn't bring in Sawahi or this other big center back, or we didn't retain Hosu or really replace him necessarily with a similar caliber, with a similar style and caliber of player. I think Gideon can be that guy, but he's going to do it differently than Hosu did. With all that being said, though, I think the coaching thing, when you look at how we lost Quill and why we lost Quill, something that we couldn't control. He moved up to a club that he holds very dearly in his heart. To me, it's like if Devin or Suggs was coaching a League One team and then we came calling, he's gonna make that move, right? And so we do what's right by him. We let him go. We get the transfer money, and then it's like, okay, what do we do? Do we try to sign another League One up and comer like Quill was? No. Instead, we go after the team that beat us in the Western Conference final or semifinals and had one of the biggest point differential turnarounds that we've seen in league history. And a guy that everybody that I have heard talk about is over the moon for in Dennis Sanchez. And it's a similar style play so that all these returning players that we get to keep are going to be playing similar styles in similar ways. And I think that was a home run hire and a home run decision, and probably alone is worth an A+. Then you go drop it down. I just think that if you broaden your horizon outside of the USL world, then these are all really good hires and really good signings, and probably could have been a little bit higher. But at least this one I understand where John is coming from, unfortunately, because it is a bunch of unknowns. But to Christina's point earlier, the A's were Charleston, Rhode Island, Lou City, Birmingham, and that's it. So 4 East teams getting A marks from John. And
But you can't disagree with them. That's the issue.
That's what I was about to say. I shit on John and the USL show quite a bit for an East Coast bias, but in this particular scenario, Charleston loses Nick Marcanic, replaces him with Cal Jennings. Like, what do you do? They take Hanana Hosu from us, but they keep Aaron Malloy and Chris Allen in that midfield, and they just look freaking stacked. Rhode Island I can quabble with a little bit. I mean, they made one big signing with Maxi Rodriguez coming over from Detroit, and then they got a couple of wingbacks that are probably going to be decent for them, but I don't know if an A- is. I would have gone a solid B+, but A- seems a little high. And now Lou City, they didn't necessarily they brought in talent, right? They brought in Kevon Lambert. Mm. They brought in a striker. Who did they bring in? No, I can't remember. Maybe not. They bring Damian Loss back in goal. But when you look at their offseason from a not on the field standpoint, they sell Elijah Widener to Los Angeles. They move Wilson Harris to Israel and get a ton of money back for them. So from a business standpoint, yeah, A+ all day. And then in the West, I mean, nobody's really had, like, he has San Antonio as a B, which is,
I think that's too kind. I don't think I think they're C+, and that's a homer.
Swahi and Alex, how do you pronounce Alex's last name?
Pernally.
Yeah. I think those are both huge gets. I think your attack was pretty solid last year. And with a new style, I think you guys, and I like the coaching hire. So I can see that. Tulsa, he gave a B, which I'm not sure about that, but is what it is. Oakland, he gave a B. Sacramento, he gave a B-. Colorado Springs, he gave a C+. We got a C+. Orange County got a C. Like Harry said earlier, the West didn't necessarily get better. Like, you just nothing. There were no groundbreaking signings in the West whatsoever, and so it'll be very interesting when we do our predictions in the next couple of weeks, what the West looks like and how we kind of view the West, because a lot of teams kind of held steady. I think Colorado Springs got worse.
I don't know, dude.
I don't know. I don't know how you can not know.
The West is just scrappy. You know, a bloodbath all year long.
It is. It is.
Here's the problem with the West is I think there's a bottom two that are really, really bad. One of them that's below you guys. And if you listen to this,
in every way, they're below us in every way.
If you listen to Seriously Loco, they are not very. They're not on the hey, it's spring training, everything's great. We'll just leave it at that. Phoenix isn't very happy with the changeover. They're doing the transition, and I don't know if they're going to be good. I don't know if they're going to be bad, and I think that's the problem. Vegas is one of those, flip a coins on right now. Orange County, I don't like Orange County. They're a team that strikes me as they overperform. They're a 6 through 8 team historically.
At this point, though, they've overperformed so much that I just have to
give them the benefit of the doubt. Except for me, I guess I'm a hater. I don't see how they do it, but they get the results done. I think Colorado Springs bringing in Estes is a big deal. The change of ownership to deeper pockets is a big deal. It may not pay off this year, but I think and that might be where I'm a little bit clouded, is I think the long-term future of Colorado Springs is very, very bright. How that'll translate this year, you're right. They have lost quite a bit, for this year, but to me, the West is going to be interesting. Sacramento is the one, to me. Who have they brought in? They haven't brought in the normal big names. So are they taking a step back? Because they used to be up there with Louisville and, bringing in the big names along those lines. That's the problem, that's the beauty of the USL this year is I think teams are getting a little bit wiser, and I think teams are a little bit smarter this year. I don't know if they're spending I think they're spending more money, but I think it's going into players like San Antonio has signed younger players to multi-year contracts. Like we pulled a 19-year-old kid out of Russia that I'm extremely excited for. I don't know if he'll pay off for this year, but just looking, at his YouTube feeds and stuff like that here is like, he reminds me a little bit of a young Pirano, but the dude is small. I won't lie, he's small, but he's 5'4", but his foot skills, passing, like there's, and I'm sure if you go through with everybody team, they're going to be like, hey, no, I like such and such, but I think it's just hard battling the Lou City perspective, the Charleston perspective right now, just because everything they do gets promoted like, hey, it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Well, you're not going to like this, but I think Sacramento actually had a better offseason than a C or I gave them a B-. So that's about where I'd put them. A lot of their stuff wasn't new names coming in. They didn't really lose a lot. They lost 5 names over here, according to the transfer tracker.
But they didn't perform well, though, last year, though. You're bringing back a team that underperformed.
But you got to remember that Briggs is out, and one of the best coaches from the East the last several years that I've been following USL is making the move back to the States to coach them now. And so how much is the little tweaking they did around the edges, plus a brand new coach that has a huge pedigree, that is very good and has proven himself in the USL, what kind of difference is that going to make? And so
we're going to find out how coaching matters this year. And to me, you got Sacramento. On the flip side, you got Birmingham Legion that, in my opinion, should have fired their coach and hasn't, who missed the playoffs. I think they're one of the few teams that kept their coaches after missing the playoffs. And, he's their first coach, and this is year 4, year 5 for them. And, they made the playoffs, and them in Pittsburgh, I think, exchanged playoff wins, but it's not through here. Lexington, to me, is San Antonio North. I don't know if that's a positive or negative.
I think they're kind of similar to Rhode Island last year in terms of just throwing a lot of money and building up a squad. With Rhode Island, though, I think
they played it smart, though.
Again, what Harry said. Like coaching matters, right? And I don't know how Boss is going to be, but I knew last year when Rhode Island hired Kano Smith, I was like, okay, that's a solid move. And then Lexington to me seems like they threw a lot of money at the wall, hoping something sticks.
Yep.
And Rhode Island seems to me like they meticulously thought out where they were going to spend money and how they were going to spend money and put together a team that made sense. Lexington, I think there's high upside there, but like they bring in Speedy Williams. Fantastic. He's like one of the best players in USL history. He's also maybe not as speedy as he used to be, if you know what I mean.
I don't think Lexington makes the playoffs. That tells you how I feel about it.
Well, there we go. They have Cam Lancaster, who's
same
great.
age as my name. It's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. He was great when we joined the league for Lou City, and then he went down to Lexington to League One and did fine. But now he's going to come back up, and everybody's thinking he's going to, or Lexington thinks he's going to be a world beater. And then, of course, the best signing that they had, from my point of view, is they bring back the penis head, Mr. Logan Ketterer, formerly of El Paso, in goal. And I'm curious to see I think he's going to be a good keeper, but I'm happy he's back for the content reasons, basically.
Well, they did get some good coaches too, right? Wink, wink. I mean, didn't they?
They did.
A couple of ours.
They get Nate. What is that picture, Harry? They do get Nate Walzer from our former goalkeeping coach, and so they did pick somebody up there. Are you ready for bed, Tinky? Sorry. And so yeah, Lexington to me is I put this out there the other day. If you're NBA fans at all, there was a year where the Lakers got Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, and now I'm going to forget the fourth name or the third name.
Well, Nash was it? Was it the year they got Peyton Malone? And where they had all the old fogies, and
everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, look at these names." That's kind of how I feel about Lexington this year, and so we'll see. I don't think they're going to be terrible, but I don't think they're definitely not going to be Rhode Island successful in my opinion.
They're Western Conference, right?
They are.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. They're joining the bloodbath.
Sorry.
So the only saving grace is they got Monterey Bay and they got El Paso.
Yes, maybe Lexington doesn't finish dead last.
Maybe. We shall see.
Something that caught my eye just quickly. Bill Hamid signed with the Miami FC.
Yeah, so did Sebastian Blanco.
I've not seen Bill Hamid's name in I don't know how long.
Miami FC is doing the exact opposite that they did last year. Last year they did all young kids. Now they're trying to mix it in. To me, Miami, and I know they're trying to transition to a new stadium, so take it this year is going to be what it is. But they're they're a team that I think in a couple of years you'll see kind of a Vegas turnaround where they'll be kind of productive. But this year, I don't.
If they're still in existence,
they'll still be in existence because they've got assuming that the new stadium gets built. They're going to be around, and the setup, the future of Miami looks a lot better than it is today.
I will say the future of Miami is probably brighter than some other teams that we actually care a little bit more about, negatively or positively.
The team down 25 is, I would say, there's a lot of whispers about the team about 25 down 25, and hopefully it's not true, because losing them, if God forbid something does happen, if Mountain Star decides, hey, it's not worth it, or if USL says, hey, you got to develop a stadium plan, which so far they haven't. But yeah, it's, to me, like I said here, I like El Paso, but the vibes are from top to bottom of that organization is not good this year.
Speaking of stadiums and stadium plans, this is something that's going to get thrown right back into the talking points and the spotlight here of the next couple of years, because the big news of the week was the USL getting scooped by the Athletic and failing to get their own announcement out in time about the
Getting scooped, or did they release? Come on, we know how this is done. Let's not say they got scooped.
No, I know, but the Athletic posted this an hour before the USL Championship announced it, or before the USL, I should say, announced it. In 2027, the USL is intending to launch a Division I sanctioned league, which brings into question a whole lot of things. Number one, I mean, part of the idea behind this is that the league would be launched as a 12 or 14 team first division, which would most likely include quite a few USL championship teams. And this article over from the Athletic, which you can find for free also on nytimes.com, apparently this is going to open up a whole realm of possibilities when it comes to pro rel, when it comes to creating a competitor for MLS. And it's this is a big deal. And like I said, there's a lot of things that are going to be up in the air about this. I reached out to the league for comment. I reached out to the club for comment in regards to a couple different things. How does this affect stadium plans for New Mexico United? Because we know the stadium was planned for an estimated 10 to 12,000 seat stadium. Now, obviously, for D1 sanctioning, it's gonna the minimum is 15,000 seats. So obviously, this is going to affect what we do in terms of stadium, unless somehow U.S. Soccer comes down on that requirement. Is there any room for that happening? Is there, who do you see moving up to the USL? What we believe is going to be called the USL Premier or USL Premier League, because there are trademarks already out for USL Premier. How does this look in 2027? Does USL and US Soccer finally have a way forward here? Does US Soccer going to support the USL in this venture?
I think they're going to have to grandfather into it, kind of similar to how they have been with Championship, with giving clubs time to get their own stadiums and giving grace periods, and paninis and things causing issues. So moving the goalpost, but so I think like the 15,000. I don't think there's any USL clubs right now who already have a stadium they own that has that capacity, right? I mean,
there's
Birmingham,
one.
they don't own it. Miami, I guess maybe eventually, like Carrie said, they're looking to own a stadium, but I think they're going to have to give some leeway, at least in the initial, if they're going to want to try to build out from the Championship.
Part of the plans for the stadium is a grass berm. They may be able to switch to seats if needed. The bigger problem is the 1 million population metro requirement. I mean, we're like 975,000, 900 something thousand. We're not far from that. And I don't think that's a hard and fast.
And it's 75% of the league has to be greater than that. So there is some leniency when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, over the past several years, we've seen the league, we've seen USL talk about getting more soccer-specific stadiums around the league. Now, we know clubs are looking to make this happen. Some of them are making progress. We are making progress. We should be at the final steps of getting everything finalized to actually be able to do this. But, I mean, obviously, this is going to affect potential stadium plans. El Paso has made no movement whatsoever. We've seen clubs fold because they can't get stadiums.
Memphis,
yeah,
Reno.
Mm-hmm. Memphis, Reno, and we know other clubs have struggled with financial issues. Look at Northern Colorado. I know they're not championship, but financial issues there. We know NISA as a whole has struggled with financial issues. We know the NASL has struggled with financial issues. We saw them, we saw the conclusion of that of the antitrust lawsuit or the monopoly lawsuit happen. Now they are planning on appealing that, but this throws a lot of things up into the air. Is the USL successful enough at this point to entice ownership groups in at a much lower entry point than MLS, and be able to bring in ownership groups that are on board with the idea of pro rel? Because that's not what happens in American sports.
So to answer your question, yes, they will be able to bring in owners to do that. 2, I hate how this was rolled out, because the USL is not trying to compete with Major League Soccer right now. To me, that's not what this is about. This is about getting CONCACAF slots to the Champions League or Champions Cup, whatever that they call it now. Because in my opinion, and I think opinion of most, USL is probably a top 3 to 5 league in CONCACAF right now. But because they're Division 2, they cannot get a slot bid. And don't give me, you can go to Open Cup because that's rigged towards MLS, or it's slided towards MLS. I guess I can't say rigged because technically it is played. But to me, the biggest point that I think from a USL aspect that they're looking at has to do with US soccer. Right now in the professional voting, there's 17 votes. MLS controls 9 of them. So what MLS wants, MLS gets, period. If there is a second Division 1 league, U.S. soccer would have to either adjust that. It may not be equal because I do think MLS is a far dominant league. But you're going to have to, if they're keeping it 17, USL would have to get more than the 2 that they have. Number one, they have the Division 1 Women's League, and they would have a Division 1's Men's League as well as the League 2 and along those lines. And MLS will probably have those as well. So to me, you're going to have more power within U.S. soccer to be able to adjust the professional league standards for that here. I also think, and this isn't something that's here, but just in how they released it, that they're going to be going into more of the World's Game. It wouldn't shock me if we're switching to more of the FIFA calendar as well. Now, MLS is already talking about doing that as well. So you're already seeing that change here stateside. If you move 12 to 14 teams from USL Championship, you're going to have through there, you're already seeing teams go from League One to Championship. So you're already kind of seeing promotion going up. Now you're not in. I guess you're kind of seeing relegation with North Carolina, Richmond, Charlotte as well. So it's already sort of happening, maybe not in a natural environment. And a couple of years ago, I talked to Peter. He happened to be here in San Antonio, and I asked him about Pro L when it first came through. And he mentioned most of the owners are for it. The issue is, what do you do if you go down? And that's where, going from Championship to League One. But if they're keeping, let's say, if you're going from Championship to Division 1, that's brand new, that gap isn't as big. And especially financially at the start, where if you're going to do this, you have to basically open up the can of worms. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's going to blow up the league. That's I hate to say it, there's not going to be any in between. The issue is the investments from the current clubs. Does the league have the buy-in for that here? I was listening to, was it the Kick Around with Jason Davis and the guy from Detroit area. He used to do Michigan Soccer Radio for there. They do it kind of similar to Soccer Wise. They're a good morning show, morning Kick Around. And they mentioned that USL's waiting. The new ownership that they're bringing in, they're vetting to make sure that they are pro for the pro rel. They've said that they're not good, because remember a couple of years ago it was supposed to go to a vote and then we never heard. they didn't have all the votes that they needed, evidently. So that's why they're still kind of waiting for that here. So to me, like I said here, if they're getting ready to make this jump, that tells me that the future ownership groups that they've got coming in are on board. They've got to have the buy-in from teams like Sacramento, who's already been rumored about having, upgrading their stadium. San Antonio Stadium can be upgraded in a year. Now, they'd have to talk to the city and state, but I'll use San Antonio as an example. They were going to pay $250-300 million to go to MLS back, before Austin got in, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. If they spent $50 to $100 million to get the stadium Toyota Field upgraded to 15,000 from the 8-9 where it's at now, and let's be honest, something that we haven't talked about here that a lot of people aren't talking about, the cost of a D1 Division I roster is going to be more than a USL. You're going to be able to attract younger, more expensive talent. You're going to be able to attract older veterans. You could bring in a Messi, because let's remember, USL doesn't have a salary cap. So if, let's say, the Cosmos wanted to come in and do like what they did at NASL and bring in Sin and a couple other stars from the past and pay them what they want to pay, USL doesn't have any rules that forbid that at this time. So I'm still 50-50 on you if USL will actually get this done. Just like a lot of times with them, they do these announcements and then it disappears. Kind of like New Orleans. Hey, we're gonna have a team, and where's it? Or what? USL Iowa. Remember that one? It's been 5 years, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's my spill on it. Like I said here, I like the idea. I think it's more about power within U.S. soccer than at this time competing with Major League Soccer, because they can't compete with Major League Soccer at this time. It's just night and day. It's not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah, I don't want them to compete with MLS. I'd rather them just really focus on USL and, state.
Yeah, I think that's inevitably that's what's going to happen. I mean, if you've seen our group chat, if you could see our group chat, you will know that I'm thoroughly unmoved by this announcement. It is an announcement, and that is about it. Like, yes, I think that is something that is in the cards that I think we've all kind of thought maybe would happen at some point. And USL has hinted at it in through different times and different ways. But until I see real movement there, and what really makes me yawn at this is that, according to what we've heard, owners didn't know about this announcement until the day before. And so how are you going to do that? How are you going to make this announcement? Like, how fleshed out really is this announcement if the owners of the current championship league that you run didn't know about an announcement coming out or anything about this until the day before, if not even later than that? And so because of that, I sit here and go, okay, sounds great. In theory, love it. I believe it when I see it. So, like Harry said, he was 50-50. I'm like 25-75. And
I'm just trying to give him credit. That's all I'm trying to do.
I know. So my life philosophy in a lot of ways is control what you can control, and what you can't control, don't worry about it. And so in this instance, it's news. It deserved being talked about. But at the end of the day, I can't control it. I don't necessarily believe it. I don't think it's going to have any bearing on how United operates going forward for a while. I think the stadium plans that are currently in place will stay in place, and the stadium will get built how it's supposed to get built right now, because we're so close to having our own stadium. I don't know if they really want to go back to the drawing board to figure out how to get 15,000 seats or get the money for 15,000 seats. when we desperately need a stadium right now, and that could delay it by months or a year or years. And so I think they move ahead with the plans because I imagine the plans have some expansion built into them. And then once we get it built, then we can talk about expanding it and moving on from there. And it'll be interesting by then, we've talked about already. Maybe that 15,000 number gets dropped a little bit. Maybe it becomes 12 seating and then 15 standing room capacity. Who knows? Because we can probably do that with the plans that are in place right now. And so it's fun to talk about. It's fun to think about. Right now, I think the plan stays as is. We focus on this season. And we, as in New Mexico United and the front office, the status quo stays the same. They move forward with the stadium the same way they were going to move forward with the stadium. And then they'll tackle the bridge of D1 when they actually probably have more details about what the hell this announcement was. And so I sit here, I twiddle my thumbs. It's been kind of fun to talk about at times, but I think Harry nailed it when he said that it's not necessarily about competing with MLS. It's not necessarily about the important things for that D1 is the voting in U.S. soccer and the places the ability to go to CONCACAF Champions Cup, to be able to go to the Club World Cup if we compete and win the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and to do these things to make it a little more, to make the league a little more viable and a little more important, raise some budgets for the roster and do this and that. It's less about trying to take down MLS.
Could you imagine Club America visiting New Mexico United?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, how crazy would that be? Or Tigris?
Yep, that would be a lot of fun. It really would. Couple things over in the chat here quickly. Last I saw on Stadium News was it passed another city council thing on February 3rd. What's the next steps? They just have to clear the final legal hurdles with the lawsuits that were filed. That's it. That's the last thing.
There were some lawsuits filed by the people around there. So it's got to go through a judge and get cleared there. And then as far as we know and are concerned, that is the last step before possibly breaking ground.
Yep.
Shovels.
Yeah. So say it again, Christina.
Shovels are there and ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not much left to go there. Get the city actually do improvements. I agree. That's going to make it. Yeah. That's going to be a thing to get taken care of as well. I did have one final question. So one question that did come up about this announcement from USL was, should the league merge with NISA in order to, I was like, yeah, no way. NISA is too much of a shit show. USL wouldn't want to absorb.
There is no NISA.
That doesn't exist right now.
Right? Exactly.
It's like NASL. Yes, it gets one voting spot per, but it's not sanctioned through USF for this year, or at least professionally. It's the only team you want from NISA is Maryland Bobcats. It's the only team.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue with them is they don't have the owners. They need to get Detroit's mystery owner to come in to make them viable for USL Championship. That's the only team you really want from there. The others are, and I hate saying that for the Stars and was it LA Force, because I guess their ownership's a little bit Charlotte-y, like independence wise, we'll just say. But to me, for NISA, now NISA Nation, that's a different discussion where it's lower league, along those lines to go with League Two. That would be a little bit different, but that's not NISA, and that's not what they're talking about.
Yeah. I think that sums up that discussion there quite a bit. The only other question is, will Messi ever play in cold weather? Like, I think it's the dumbest decision in the world to move that match just for Messi. I'm sorry. You know that's the reason behind that.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. It's messy, bro. and if he gets hurt because he's playing in snow, then that's a lot of eyeballs and a lot of money that the MLS risks losing. And I don't agree with it necessarily, but at the end of the day, it comes down to dollar signs for that league, and Messi is the dollar sign.
It's a two-legged event. Just don't play him the first round. It's against Sporting Kansas City, which is probably one of the worst teams this year. If Miami can't beat them without Messi on here, now I know the TV probably wouldn't be happy about it, but who's really watching early rounds of CONCACAF Champions Cup today? Like it was on tonight. Oh, you have it on?
I've got it on.
So I don't even know what channel it's on. It's too early in the competition, but
well, to be fair, it's LAFC, so that's the only reason why I'm watching this particular one. But yeah, I get it, and we're soccer geeks, as Harry said earlier.
You know, I remember a game a few years ago where Atlanta and Minnesota played in about 6 inches of snow. So
how about Colorado and who they play?
LA.
LAFC. There's the U.S. men's national team versus was it Costa Rica? I think in the Snow Bowl.
Sounds right.
Through there, it can be done. And is it cold? Yes. Would I will probably go? Maybe. I don't know. But if it's a big enough match that you want to go, if it's a big enough match that you want to play, you would. Now, these aren't high school kids or college kids that that are risking. These guys are paid, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to play a game. You can tough it up, for it's 2 hours and you get a break in between, and you can't tell me that the equipment that they have isn't top notch.
Yeah. I think it's just pandering to Miami and Messi, and Miami and Messi screwed over a whole bunch of teams that sold tickets for him to be seen last year, and he didn't play because it was turf. So they got to stop. If you're gonna sign someone, they got to play. Again, unless you have a legitimate injury. Yeah. I also don't agree with NBA stars sitting out back-to-backs. So.
Well, you can talk about your Atlanta United and how great they're going to be this year with the money that they've spent. So,
a shit ton of money.
They've spent a shit ton of money. I can't wait to see the team. That's going to be fun.
This week, I know we're a USL show, but this week MLS kicks off, and I think even us that say, "Hey, we don't like MLS," we watch MLS. For you may not have the subscription, but if it's soccer at night, I'm just glad to start to get soccer back on in the evenings on the weekend, because with football gone, you need that replacement.
Yep. That is true. All right, guys. I think we have hit every topic we had on our agenda. Anybody have anything else they want to hit on before we get out of here? I know we are hour 45 almost already.
I don't know if you guys are cold. I know here in Texas it's supposed to be cold, and there's supposed to be a large, part of the United States that's cold again for this week. If you got animals, bring them in. Don't leave them out. You got water pipes, make sure you protect them. And just be nice, kind, and take your time on the roads.
Harry over here with the grandpa announcements. I love it. Well said, Harry. Well said. I think the last thing I had was there is a home preseason match this Saturday, February 22nd, that you can get tickets to. It'll be up at Mesa del Sol, so you can actually go see the players that we talked about, and get a look at Redacted and Redacted 2 and Redacted 3 as well. And so you can learn for yourself if you go to those matches. And I believe after the matches, I can announce it as well if the club hasn't announced it. So I'll double check on that on Saturday. But yeah, it's time. It's time. It's here. I don't know if anybody. I remember I asked last week, but I can't remember. Christina, Seth, you going to be out there Saturday?
Potentially. I'm not sure yet.
I'm TBD. We closed on our house, so bittersweet.
Why didn't you lead with that?
It's good news, but not really fun news for us, I guess. I don't know. It is whatever. But
Moving sucks, dude. Moving sucks. There's no, and especially under your circumstances. But
yeah, so might be over there cleaning and getting stuff kind of going. I was sick with the flu the weekend before last, so didn't get to do that. So TBD.
There you go. All right. Yeah, I mean, potentially we'll see. But if I can get my kids, I'll have to talk to David, see if I can get my kids in. So
Just buy tickets and go as a fan.
probably that might be what I have to end up doing.
I was gonna say, is that something new, or New Mexico United's got stuff against kids? Are they not a PG family show this year? Is that, I think that's more the individuals down on I-25 where they're not going to be very family friendly. So.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, anything else?
That's it.
Nope. All right.
Oh,
Jacob, get us out of here.
Space Kid, Justin, Josh, Jane, Christian was in here earlier. Subliminal Man was in here earlier. I hadn't seen that name in a while. That took me back. Let's see. I think that's it. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Thank you guys, as always. Thank everybody that watches and listens live. Thanks everybody that downloads later and listens in the podcast form or rewatches after we're already done. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube for the live show. Follow us on social media and rate and review us on the podcast player app of your choice. We'll be back next week. We'll have a home preseason match to chat about. Hopefully we get somebody with eyes over there. I'm going to try to make it. I haven't figured that out yet. And then, yeah, we're less than 3 weeks away. I am working on a couple things for social media. So keep an eye out there. And yeah, just thank you, everybody. Love y'all. And we'll be back next Tuesday to talk about the match and a whole bunch more probably. So I don't know if we'll go at an hour and 47 minutes next week, but you never know. And like Harry said, we will be back probably that first Tuesday in March doing our prediction show where we try to do our best to predict the West and the East final standings. And yeah, so until next week, guys, love y'all. So we'll see you.
Italy makes me feel closer.
Christina better